Chosen ones, you didn't land on this video by accident. This exact moment, right here, right now, was marked for you long before your name was ever known on earth. It was written in the heavenly scrolls before your first heartbeat, before your first cry, before the world tried to tell you who you are. You have felt it all your life, that deep, mysterious pull inside you. That sense that you didn't quite fit into the mold. That your steps were leading somewhere, even if you didn't yet understand where. That's because you were chosen. And today, the reason for your journey begins to unfold. This is not just a message, it's a divine confirmation. This is your call. Your signal. Your final step. All those nights you cried and no one knew. All the times you questioned your value because you kept getting overlooked. All the silent seasons when God seemed quiet while your world was falling apart, none of it was wasted. Heaven was watching. Heaven was recording. And heaven was preparing. You see, when God chooses someone, He doesn't give them the easy road. He gives them the right one. The refining one. The road that strips away pride, builds endurance, and forces deep faith. That's the road you've walked. That's why this moment is sacred. You didn't just arrive here. You were brought here, through fire, through storms, through silence. But you never quit. And that's why you're standing on the edge of everything you've prayed for. Have you ever wondered why the path took so long? Why the promises felt delayed? Why it seemed like others were thriving while you were barely surviving? Let me tell you something your soul already knows. You weren't being denied, you were being developed. Because what's coming to you now isn't small. It's not average. It's not something you could have handled prematurely. It's massive. It's eternal. It's been custom-made to fit the unique call on your life. And only now, after everything you've endured, are you ready to carry it. You're not just about to receive blessings, you're about to inherit what was always meant to be yours. There's a difference. A blessing can be given to anyone. But inheritance? That's reserved for those with blood rights. For sons and daughters. And you, chosen one, are not a guest in the kingdom. You are royal. You are blood-marked. You have rights. The abundance you're stepping into, yes, the millions, the resources, the opportunities, they are part of your divine inheritance. Not a random gift. Not a lucky break. But a holy portion assigned to you from the beginning of time. This is why the enemy fought you so hard. This is why the warfare was intense. Because hell could sense what was coming before you could. You may have felt confused, but the enemy wasn't. He knew. He saw the favor, the power, the anointing resting on your life. And he tried to stop it at every turn. But here's the thing, he failed. You're still here. You're still believing. Still hoping. Still standing. And now, not only are you about to receive, but you're about to rise. Publicly. Visibly. Undeniably. Let me pause and ask you this. Have you ever felt like you were waiting on something without knowing exactly what it was? Like you could feel the pressure building, the momentum growing, but there was no clear sign yet? That's because the final piece was alignment. Not action. You've done the work. You've stayed in faith. And now, the spiritual clock has struck the hour. This is your moment. This is the step that shifts your entire life. Think back on your journey. Really think. The heartbreaks, the disappointments, the betrayals, they weren't punishments. They were preparation. They were pruning you so that what God gives you now doesn't destroy you. You had to become strong enough to hold the weight of glory. You had to be empty before you could be filled. And now, you are. You're no longer the version of yourself who begged for scraps of validation. You know who you are. You know who your Father is. And you know that when He says the time has come, no force in hell can delay it. This isn't just the beginning of a new season. It's the end of lack. The end of striving. The end of waiting for permission. This is the season of fulfillment. You will see the things you once only dreamed about. The people who doubted you will watch. The ones who left you will hear. But more importantly, you will know that it was all real. That your tears weren't wasted. That your faith was working. And that heaven always keeps its promises. And I need you to understand something deeply: this abundance, both spiritual and material, is not coming to validate you. You're not receiving it to prove anything to anyone. It's not coming because you finally earned it. It's coming because you're aligned. Because you finally believe what heaven has been trying to tell you all along, that you were never forgotten. That you were always chosen. That everything the enemy tried to convince you you'd never have, peace, stability, love, purpose, wealth, it's already yours. So now, the question is no longer, when is it coming? The question is, will you step into it? Will you let go of the fear that you're not ready? Will you silence the voice that says you don't deserve it? Will you claim the promise that's been hovering over your life for years? Because this is the threshold. This is the doorway. The final step isn't a task, it's a decision. It's you, standing tall and declaring, I receive what's mine. You are not small. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are standing at the very intersection of preparation and promise. Of endurance and elevation. Of wilderness and wealth. This is the place where the old ends and the new begins. This is your divine turning point. Chosen one, take a breath. You've arrived. Not at a random point in time, but at the point. The one heaven ordained. The one hell tried to block. The one your spirit has been waiting for. From this moment forward, everything changes. You are stepping into abundance. Into calling. Into overflow. And the world is about to witness the glory of your rise. This is your last step, and it's the one that leads you home. What if the pain you went through wasn't punishment, but preparation? What if every delay, every detour, and every disappointment was never meant to stop you, but to shape you into the vessel strong enough to hold what's coming next? You've been through a lot, more than most would ever know. The sleepless nights filled with prayers that felt unanswered, the quiet endurance of broken dreams, the constant questioning, why is this so hard for me? But what if all of it was leading you here, to this exact moment, the final step before divine abundance unfolds in your life? You see, this isn't just another day, and this certainly isn't just another video. This is a spiritual marker. A divine checkpoint. A sacred pause before everything shifts in your favor. Because what's coming to you isn't ordinary. It's not surface-level success or fleeting applause. It's a deep, God-ordained overflow that touches every corner of your life, your finances, your relationships, your calling, your peace. And the reason you're standing here, right now, is because you passed the test. Even when it didn't make sense, even when it cost you comfort and pride, you stayed. You endured. You held on when others let go. And heaven took note of every single moment. Do you realize how few people make it to this point? How rare it is to remain faithful when the blessings are nowhere in sight. The universe doesn't entrust this level of abundance to just anyone. It chooses the ones who've been forged in the fire, the ones who've been tested not once, but again and again. The ones who, like you, have walked through storms and come out purified. The truth is, the greatest abundance always follows the deepest pruning. And what you thought were failures were actually rehearsals for glory. Every setback, every rejection, every lonely chapter was a sacred rehearsal for your breakthrough moment. Think of Joseph, betrayed and left for dead by his own brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned for years, yet it was all a setup. Not for his ruin, but for his rise. And Esther, an orphan girl thrown into a kingdom she didn't ask for, faced with the annihilation of her people, yet chosen to stand before the king and save a nation. Their stories weren't just about survival. They were about divine elevation through relentless testing. Just like yours. You've been in a season of spiritual training, and you didn't even realize it. That's how God works. He hides promotion in pressure. He hides transformation in tribulation. And now, chosen one, you are no longer in training. You are crossing into triumph. This is your final step, not a test, but a threshold. The edge of everything that has been promised to you. A door is opening. A divine door. And it's unlike anything you've walked through before. Can you feel it? The shift in the atmosphere? The weight that once clung to you so tightly feels like it's lifting. That's because spiritually, something has already moved. Heaven has made its decision. And it's in your favor. The season of refining is over. The season of reward is here. It's time to walk into the flow of abundance that has been waiting for you, not just financially, but holistically. Peace that surpasses understanding. Opportunities that once felt out of reach are now falling into your hands. Relationships are aligning. Ideas are flourishing. Resources are multiplying. And yet, this moment demands more than acknowledgement. It demands action. Not busyness. Not striving. But spiritual alignment. The step isn't about doing, it's about receiving. Can you receive what you've been prepared for? Can you allow yourself to believe, fully and deeply, that this is your moment? That you're not being teased or tricked, but invited into a fullness that has been your inheritance all along? Let's be honest, it's easier to brace for more struggle than to lean into victory. When you've spent years in survival mode, abundance can feel foreign. Sometimes, it's not the hardship that scares us, it's the freedom that comes after. Because stepping into overflow means releasing old identities, letting go of the almost mindset, and claiming what's always been yours. It means saying, I am not behind, I'm right on time. I am not lacking, I am overflowing. I am not hoping, I am receiving. There's something sacred about this final step. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's not something you post on social media. It's quiet. It's personal. It's you and God. It's the still small voice whispering, you made it. It's the moment you realize that the wilderness was necessary. That the silence wasn't abandonment, it was alignment. That the tears were not wasted, they were seeds. And now, those seeds are blooming into blessings that will overflow into every area of your life. But let me ask you, are you willing to step through the open door? Or will fear, doubt, or unworthiness hold you back from the very thing you've prayed for? Will you declare, I'm ready, even if your knees still tremble? Will you trust that this final step isn't the end, but the beginning of a brand new chapter filled with divine provision, spiritual expansion, and overflow beyond measure? You're not waiting anymore. You're walking in. And it's not just into money or opportunity, it's into the fullness of who you've become. You're stepping into the truth that you are not the same person who began this journey. You are wiser, stronger, more grounded, and deeply, divinely equipped. The door is open. The invitation is extended. And the only thing left is for you to walk through it. This is not a season of survival. It's the beginning of your overflow. Not someday. Not if things line up. But now. The final step has already been taken in your spirit. All that's left is to walk it out in faith. So, chosen one, I ask you, now that you've endured the preparation, are you ready to receive what has always been yours? Because from this moment forward, there's no going back. Abundance is not a surprise. It's your birthright. This truth may be hard to digest if you've spent your life believing that spiritual growth and financial wealth are incompatible. If you've been taught that poverty equals humility, and desiring more somehow means you're selfish or less spiritual, then hear this loud and clear: the enemy has used that lie to keep chosen ones from fulfilling their full divine purpose. But not anymore. You are not here to struggle forever. You were not born to barely survive. You were chosen to thrive. You are not begging for prosperity, you were born into it. You've already walked through the wilderness. You've endured seasons where lack seemed to be your only companion. But that was never your final destination. It was only the training ground. The furnace where your spirit was refined. And now, you're being called into the reality that has always been yours, divine abundance. This isn't just about material wealth, it's about alignment. A state where everything you need to fulfill your mission begins to flow to you with ease, not because you manipulated or hustled your way to the top, but because heaven decreed it long before you were even born. You were marked for abundance because the assignment on your life requires it. Abundance is not about ego, it's about assignment. The resources that are coming to you are not a prize to inflate your sense of self-worth. They are tools, sacred instruments, to help you build, to heal, to restore, to teach, and to lead. The lie that abundance is carnal has kept too many spiritual leaders from stepping fully into their calling. But let's look at the truth of Scripture. Abraham was blessed beyond measure, not because he was greedy, but because he was faithful. Joseph's abundance came after years of being misunderstood and mistreated, but his wealth became the source of rescue for entire nations. Solomon's wisdom came with divine riches because his heart was aligned with purpose. These weren't anomalies. They were divine precedents. Wealth in the hands of the chosen becomes a divine weapon. When God trusts you with financial abundance, it's because He knows you will steward it wisely. You won't hoard it. You won't be seduced by it. You will multiply it, bless with it, build with it, and lead through it. This shift is not about falling in love with money, it's about falling deeper in love with the purpose that requires it. You've been faithful with little. Now, God is trusting you with much. And what you did in secret, those late nights of praying over bills, those acts of kindness when you had little to give, those sacrifices no one saw, heaven is now rewarding in public. Can you feel it? That shift in your heart? That stirring in your spirit? It's the Holy Spirit whispering, you are not an imposter. You are an heir. You don't need to apologize for the abundance coming your way. You don't have to justify it. You don't need to shrink in order to make others comfortable. God is not blessing you because you earned it, but because He appointed you. You were predestined for this. Every delay, every rejection, every dry season was preparing you to carry the weight of this inheritance. And now that you've crossed into this new dimension, it's time to let go of the limiting beliefs that kept you in lack. You were not made to crawl, you were born to soar. Your abundance is not just a result of your effort, it's a reflection of your identity. You are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, set apart for a divine purpose. And just like any royal heir, your inheritance isn't something you fight for, it's something you receive when the timing is right. And that time is now. All the years you sowed in tears are about to bloom in joy. Everything you built in secret is about to go public. The tables are turning. The gates are opening. And the wealth is flowing. Still, with every blessing comes responsibility. This isn't the end of your journey, it's a commissioning. A charge to carry this wealth not as a trophy, but as a tool. God didn't choose you so you could sit comfortably in luxury. He chose you because you're willing to serve through it. Because you're willing to turn prosperity into purpose. So ask yourself, how will I carry this inheritance? What will I build? Who will I bless? What legacy will I leave behind? You see, prosperity doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you're equipped. It's not the destination, it's the vehicle. The blessings you're about to receive are not just for you. They are for your family, your community, your generation. They are for the souls you've been assigned to reach. The ripple effect of your obedience is about to shake atmospheres, open doors for others, and demonstrate what's possible when faith meets divine favor. And maybe that's why it's been so hard. Because this inheritance is heavy. It comes with weight, not just in value, but in purpose. And God had to make sure you could carry it with humility, with integrity, and with vision. That's why the wilderness lasted as long as it did. That's why the tests were relentless. Not to punish you, but to position you. So that now, as the overflow begins, you can receive it with open hands and a steady heart. So, chosen one, this is your moment to embrace your identity fully. No more apologizing. No more minimizing. No more playing small. You've been called, prepared, refined, and now, released. Released into your inheritance. Released into your abundance. Released into your divine destiny. This is your confirmation. Not just that the abundance is coming, but that it's already here. But here's the anchor that holds it all together: abundance is not the end. It's the beginning of impact. Your prosperity is the platform God will use to amplify your voice, your mission, your legacy. So step into it, not just with excitement, but with intention. Let your wealth reflect your worship. Let your success tell the story of a faithful God. Let your overflow become the evidence that obedience was never in vain. Now that you understand your inheritance, how will you carry it? You weren't chosen because you were lucky. You were chosen because you kept the faith. That's the truth the enemy didn't want you to realize. The world may look at your breakthrough and say you just happened to be at the right place at the right time. They might call it fate, coincidence, or good karma. But heaven knows the truth: what's about to be released in your life is not a reward for luck. It's the fruit of unwavering belief planted in seasons of darkness. The breakthrough didn't happen because things just worked out, it happened because you didn't let go when everything inside of you was breaking. What if the reason you were chosen wasn't because you were the strongest or the smartest, but because you held on to faith even when the silence was deafening? That's what separates you. Not your resume. Not your status. Not your performance. It's that in the shadows, when nobody saw you, when you had every reason to walk away, you stayed. You stayed faithful. You stayed hopeful. You cried out to God when there were no answers. You praised when there was no provision. You stood when it would have been easier to fall. And now, heaven is standing to honor your endurance. You see, the trials you walked through weren't accidents. The heartbreaks, the betrayal, the moments when you were misunderstood or excluded, those weren't signs of being forgotten. They were signs of being forged. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. The fire you felt wasn't meant to consume you, it was meant to refine you. Just like gold, your spirit was placed in a furnace to burn away every false belief, every insecurity, every layer that didn't reflect your true worth. And while the world saw you as broken, heaven saw you as becoming. Becoming who you were always meant to be. You were being forged in secret, while the world misunderstood you, heaven was molding you. Every tear that fell was a drop of holy oil. Every silent prayer was a sacred offering. Every moment you chose love over bitterness, hope over despair, faith over fear, you were laying bricks for the life you're about to walk into. The enemy tried to break you, but all he did was build you. You didn't snap, you bent. You didn't fall apart, you held together. And that's why you were chosen. Not because you had it all together, but because you stayed when everything else fell apart. You weren't chosen because you broke, you were chosen because you bent, but never snapped. That's the difference between you and the ones who walked away. You didn't let the fire destroy you. You let it define you. And now that the refining is complete, heaven is releasing the reward. Not because you demanded it, but because you endured for it. This is not a sudden blessing, it's a long-awaited harvest. This is not a surprise from the universe, it's a scheduled unveiling from the King. Can we talk about that fire for a moment? Do you remember those seasons when it felt like nothing was working? When every door slammed shut? When people you loved turned their backs? That wasn't coincidence. That was sacred training. You were being trained to trust when there was no evidence. You were being taught to hear God's voice in the silence. You were being equipped to walk by faith, not by sight. You were learning that your identity isn't based on applause or approval, it's based on covenant. And that covenant doesn't break under pressure. It holds. It carries. It restores. Like a soldier trained in combat, your spirit was being conditioned for elevation. And elevation requires resilience. Because when God lifts you, you must have the inner strength to carry what He places in your hands. That strength doesn't come from a life of ease. It comes from the trenches. From the battlefields of the unseen. From fighting for your peace, your hope, your mind, and your future. And now, all of it is coming full circle. Let's not pretend it was easy. Let's not minimize the pain. You cried real tears. You doubted. You questioned. You asked God if He forgot you. And He didn't. He was closer than you knew. He was gathering your tears in a bottle. He was whispering, "Hold on, I'm not done yet." And now, you're about to see why you had to go through what you did. The pain had purpose. The silence had strategy. The delay had design. So don't let anyone diminish what's coming to you by calling it luck. You weren't lucky, you were loyal. You weren't lucky, you were faithful. You weren't lucky, you were chosen. And the fire didn't consume you because the fire recognized who you belonged to. Just like the 3 Hebrew boys who walked through the furnace and came out untouched, your identity as God's beloved kept you. You weren't alone in the fire. There was always a 4th man walking with you. And now it's time. Time to step into the reward. Time to walk in what you've been praying for. Time to stop questioning if you deserve it and start declaring that you've been prepared for it. This is not arrogance, it's agreement. Agreement with heaven's plan for your life. Agreement with the identity God gave you before you were even born. The fire tested you. The silence matured you. The struggle shaped you. And the breakthrough is about to crown you. You've passed the test. The fire didn't destroy you, it defined you. Now, step into your reward. These words aren't just a conclusion. They are a coronation. You didn't just survive, you've been elevated. And with that elevation comes new vision, new authority, and new purpose. But it also comes with a call to carry this reward with humility, with wisdom, and with continued faith. Let this part of your story be the reminder that faith is not a passive hope, it's an active force. It moves mountains, endures storms, and births miracles. And you, chosen one, are living proof of what happens when faith is tested and remains. You are not the exception. You are the evidence. And now that you've made it through the fire, what will you build from the ashes? What if the abundance that's about to enter your life isn't just for you to enjoy, but for you to share? What if the blessing you've been praying for is actually heaven's strategy to answer the prayers of others through you? You see, this is the moment when your story takes a divine turn. Until now, you've been preparing, healing, enduring. But now, you are being positioned. Positioned not just to receive, but to carry, to give, to lead. This blessing, this breakthrough, this overflow, it's bigger than you. We live in a world that teaches us to collect, to accumulate, to hold tightly to every ounce of gain as proof of our worth. But God's kingdom operates differently. In His economy, you're not just a vessel to be filled, you're a river to flow through. The favor coming your way was never meant to be stored. It was meant to be sent. You are not just blessed, you are commissioned. You've been equipped for something far greater than your personal comfort. You are the answer to someone else's struggle. Your overflow is someone else's lifeline. The healing of others is hidden in your obedience. It's time to release the lie that your blessings are just rewards for personal goodness. No, this is a holy assignment. God's abundance is falling on you not because you're better than anyone, but because you've been trusted with more. Your blessing is a divine baton, meant to be passed along, carried forward, and multiplied through action. Heaven is asking you to be more than a receiver. Heaven is calling you to be a leader. Imagine this, you, walking through life like a torchbearer in a world gone dim. Every step you take lights the path for someone still lost in shadow. Every word you speak plants seeds of faith in a soul who has forgotten how to believe. Every act of generosity isn't just kind, it's catalytic. Your story is not meant to be hidden. It's meant to be a map. A guide for those who haven't yet seen that God can take a wounded vessel and fill it with glory. This is the moment where your life becomes a sermon louder than words. Because people aren't looking for religion, they're looking for evidence. And your breakthrough, your peace, your unexplainable joy in the midst of adversity, it speaks. It declares, God is real, and He still moves. You are no longer just a believer. You are a bridge. A living testimony that spirituality and abundance are not enemies, but allies when anchored in purpose. You were never meant to choose between being spiritual and being impactful. That's a false divide. Look at Abraham, he walked with God and carried nations in his legacy. Look at Solomon, his wisdom was matched with wealth, and his wealth became a platform for holy influence. Think of Joseph, who went from prison to palace not for personal gain, but to save lives. Even Mother Teresa, whose riches were not in gold but in compassion, yet still led movements, built homes, and transformed hearts. Abundance, when placed in the hands of the chosen, becomes a weapon for heaven. So what if everything you've been through, every tear, every delay, every disappointment, was building you into someone capable of holding not just provision, but purpose? What if the reason the breakthrough took so long was because heaven wasn't just building a blessing, it was building a leader? Because it's easy to celebrate blessings. It's harder to carry them well. But you, chosen one, you're ready. You've been tested. You've been refined. And now, what's coming to your life isn't just yours, it belongs to everyone God will reach through you. You've prayed for overflow. But overflow isn't a lake, it's a river. And rivers don't exist to reflect, they exist to move, to nourish, to connect. This is the beginning of a new spiritual identity for you, not just as a survivor of your story, but as a steward of something far greater. Your finances, your influence, your voice, they are all tools now. Tools to lift others, tools to build legacy, tools to change the atmosphere wherever you go. What will you build with what God is placing in your hands? What communities will you restore? What broken hearts will you heal? What forgotten voices will you amplify? You see, the blessing coming isn't the final destination, it's the platform. And you are being called not to sit on it, but to stand on it and proclaim freedom to captives, hope to the weary, and truth to those drowning in confusion. This blessing is not a finish line. It's a launch pad. It's the beginning of a wider ministry, a deeper reach, and a bolder mission. It's the turning of a page from personal survival to public impact. And with it comes responsibility, not to hoard, but to host heaven's presence in every room you enter. You are no longer just someone who made it out, you are someone being sent back in, carrying light into dark places, carrying water to dry lands, carrying love to those who've only ever known rejection. So the real question is not, will you receive the blessing? You've already received it. The question is, will you carry it with purpose? Will you walk in the authority God gave you, not to rule over, but to lift up? Will you lead not from ego, but from empathy? Will you let your story become someone else's survival guide? Because this was never just about you. It was never just about what you could receive, it was about who you were becoming through it. The blessing was always tied to a call. And now that the blessing has arrived, so has the responsibility. God didn't bless you to stop you. He blessed you to send you. And you've been sent. Let that truth sink deep. You are not just a child of God. You are an ambassador. A reformer. A carrier of divine hope. And everything you've endured has made you strong enough to stand in that truth. So don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't play small. You're not walking in favor just to look pretty. You're walking in favor to set captives free. You're not wearing a crown to sparkle. You're wearing it because God needs leaders who look like love. This is the beginning of something sacred. Not just for you, but for everyone who will be touched by the wave that starts from your obedience. So walk boldly. Carry this abundance with open hands and an open heart. And never forget, the greatest evidence of being chosen isn't just that you were blessed, it's that through you, the world was changed. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, am I truly ready to receive what I've been praying for? Because the truth is, blessings don't just fall into our laps, they settle in places that are prepared for them. This next season of overflow you've been sensing, this divine release of abundance, will not be received through the same mindset that once helped you survive. The spiritual atmosphere is shifting, and so must your thinking. This isn't just about money, it's about identity. And to step into the divine inheritance prepared for you, you must undergo a holy transformation of the mind. To receive wealth, you must shift from fear of lack to awareness of abundance. That single truth defines everything in this part of the journey. Because many of God's chosen ones have lived too long in a mindset shaped by scarcity. You've learned to expect delays. You've trained yourself to survive on just enough. You've grown comfortable waiting outside the gates, never realizing that heaven has already given you the keys. The fear of lack whispers, don't ask for too much, just be grateful for scraps. But the awareness of abundance declares, I am the child of a king, nothing good will he withhold from me. This is the moment of awakening. This is where your spirit begins to agree with what heaven already knows about you. Abundance, in its truest form, is not about a bank account, it's a spiritual state. You can be living paycheck to paycheck and still carry the vibration of abundance. You can be surrounded by debt and still hold peace that surpasses understanding. And you can have millions in the bank but still be poor in spirit, full of fear, and enslaved by greed. That's why God isn't just interested in changing your outer world. He's transforming your inner posture. He's moving you from survival mode into divine stewardship, where you don't just receive blessings, you host them with purpose and power. It's time to upgrade your spiritual software. Because the new level of provision that's on its way can't run on the old operating system of worry, fear, and guilt. You can't pour new wine into old wineskins. And you can't step into harvest with a mindset built in famine. That's why this moment, this mental and spiritual pivot, is so vital. Heaven is not asking if you want to be blessed. Heaven is asking, are you ready to think like someone who already is? There are 4 pillars that create what we call the millionaire mindset, and none of them have to do with greed or ego. In fact, each one is a spiritual discipline, deeply rooted in kingdom truth. The first is faith. Not just belief in God's existence, but a radical trust that He is your provider, your source, your sustainer. Faith is the currency of heaven. It's what pulls the unseen into the seen. And in this season, your faith must outgrow your fears. You must believe that abundance is not only possible, but promised. Not because you are perfect, but because you are positioned. God did not bring you this far to abandon the mission. And when you walk by faith, even before the money shows up, the mindset prepares the atmosphere for miracles. The second pillar is gratitude. This is not a cliché, it's a power source. Gratitude realigns your heart with heaven. It reminds you that you are not owed anything, yet everything you need is already being orchestrated for your good. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 18 teaches, give thanks in all circumstances, and this isn't just a verse, it's a spiritual key. Gratitude breaks the illusion of lack. It flips the script on every fear, and it makes room for more. When you can give thanks for the seed, God can trust you with the harvest. The third is discipline. This may be the least glamorous, but it's the most crucial. Discipline is the bridge between vision and manifestation. Without it, abundance becomes a burden. A millionaire mindset is not about spending more, it's about stewarding well. It's about aligning your time, your energy, and your resources with divine instruction. Discipline trains your emotions not to panic when things shift. It teaches your hands to build when others quit. And most importantly, it proves to God that you are not just ready for the blessing, you are ready to manage it. And finally, humility. This is what keeps you grounded. Humility reminds you that wealth is not the end game, it's a tool. You are not the source, you are the vessel. And when you keep your heart low before the Lord, He can lift you higher than any earthly success ever could. Humility protects you from the pride that so often follows prosperity. It ensures that no matter how high you rise, you remain connected to the one who raised you. You don't chase platforms, you build altars. You don't use people, you serve them. Because you understand, this abundance is an assignment, not a trophy. So let me ask you, are you truly ready to let go of lack and live in overflow? Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, relationally. Are you prepared to stop rehearsing your fears and start declaring your future? Because this shift in mindset is not optional. It's essential. The blessing is already in motion, but your mind must catch up to the vision heaven has for you. This is the spiritual maturity that unlocks the next level of influence. You're not just asking God for more, you're becoming someone who can carry more with integrity, responsibility, and joy. If you're still clinging to the belief that you're not ready, or not worthy, let me remind you, God wouldn't be preparing the blessing if He hadn't already prepared you. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. When your mindset aligns with God's plan, your external world starts to reflect your internal agreement. Once your mind shifts, your reality follows. And that is where everything begins to change. The shift is not something you wait for, it's something you choose. Today. Right now. In this very moment. You choose to believe that you are not a beggar, you are an heir. You choose to walk in faith, not fear. You choose to bless others, even before your breakthrough fully arrives. Because you know, abundance flows to those who prepare for it, believe for it, and live like it's already theirs. And so, as you take this step forward, remember, this transformation of mindset is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of the manifestation. But abundance, no matter how promised, doesn't come passively. It flows through inspired, divine action. And that's exactly where we go next. What if the blessing you've been waiting for is already prepared, already released, and just waiting on your thank you? That simple shift in posture could unlock everything. Because in the divine realm, gratitude isn't a reward for receiving. It's the proof that you're ready for more. And this is one of the most misunderstood but powerful keys to abundance. You see, most people treat gratitude like a reaction. They think, when the breakthrough comes, then I'll praise. When the healing happens, then I'll be thankful. When the account is full, then I'll rejoice. But the chosen ones, those who walk in deeper spiritual maturity, understand something radically different. Gratitude is not a response. It's a signal. A declaration. A prophetic announcement to heaven that says, I trust you, even now. Even in the waiting. Even in the wilderness. I don't see it yet, but I believe it's already mine. That kind of gratitude shakes the heavens. Gratitude, in its purest form, is like a key made of light. It turns the lock on doors you didn't even know existed. It doesn't wait for the rain to fall, it digs wells in the desert. Picture that, standing in dry land, no sign of clouds in the sky, no promise of refreshment, yet you pick up your shovel and start digging. That's what it looks like to give thanks in advance. It's irrational to the world, but it is magnetic to heaven. Because heaven responds to faith, not logic. And there's no greater faith than saying, thank you, while your hands are still empty. Let's take it deeper. Imagine your life is connected to a divine faucet, a sacred pipeline from heaven's storehouse. That faucet doesn't turn on with effort, or striving, or begging. It flows with trust. And the handle that opens it? Gratitude. The more you turn it through thanksgiving, the stronger the flow. Stop giving thanks, and it slows. Let fear or frustration take over, and the flow is blocked. But when your heart stays open in gratitude, the current keeps moving, sometimes quietly, sometimes powerfully, but always intentionally. That's why the most significant blessings aren't received by those who pray the loudest, but by those who stay grateful the longest. This is what makes gratitude a spiritual engine, not just a nice emotion. It generates momentum. It creates a cycle of increase. Here's how it works: you give thanks for what you already have, and that positions you to receive more. You receive more, and you give thanks again. That new thanks brings greater blessings. Over time, you're no longer living in spiritual drought, you're living in divine overflow. And here's the truth: that flow never stops unless you do. Gratitude keeps it moving. It keeps the heavens open. You are not a container. You are a conduit. Let that truth settle in your spirit. You were never meant to hold blessings like trophies on a shelf. You were created to circulate them, to let them pass through you, touching others, multiplying impact, and bringing glory to the one who gave them in the first place. Think about it. When you give thanks for your job, your peace, your friendships, even your challenges, you're not just aligning with heaven's will, you're proving you're a trustworthy vessel. God says, if you're grateful for little, I will trust you with much. And that's not just poetic. That's spiritual law. Let's look at Scripture. When Jesus stood before 5 loaves and 2 fish, faced with thousands of hungry people, what did he do? He gave thanks. Before the multiplication, before the miracle, he lifted his eyes and said thank you. That single act unlocked the supernatural. Or take Hannah, who worshipped before her womb was opened. Or Job, who blessed the name of the Lord even in loss. These were not acts of emotional convenience. They were declarations of trust. And trust is always rewarded. The most powerful thank you is the one whispered through tears, uttered in uncertainty, sung in silence. Because it carries the weight of surrender. And in the kingdom, surrender is the soil where miracles grow. So let me ask you, what are you doing with your waiting season? Are you praising or pouting? Are you worshiping or worrying? Are you rehearsing what you lack, or thanking God for what you still have? Because sometimes, your next level isn't waiting on another prayer. It's waiting on a praise. What if your breakthrough is waiting on your thank you? This is not about ignoring reality. It's about anchoring yourself in a higher reality. When your gratitude outweighs your complaint, you change atmospheres. You become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You stop reacting to what you see, and start shaping what's coming. That is spiritual authority. That is maturity. That is divine alignment. And more than anything, that is how heaven knows you're still open. Gratitude is heaven's language. It's the sound of trust, the song of surrender, the rhythm of divine readiness. And when you speak it fluently, even when life is confusing, even when the wait is long, you tell the universe, I still believe. I still honor. I'm still available. And heaven never ignores that kind of voice. So what happens when you become a person of gratitude? You don't just experience blessings, you become a blessing. Your life becomes a lighthouse. Your words become living water. Your presence becomes a doorway of peace. That's the power of gratitude. It doesn't just open heaven, it transforms you. And that's exactly where we're going next. Because when the gates of gratitude open wide, what flows next is not just more, it's transformation. For years, you've been fighting battles in silence. You've endured rejection, walked through lack, stood your ground when everything inside of you wanted to give up. You've prayed, fasted, obeyed even when no one saw, and now, the breakthrough you've been believing for is knocking. The abundance you cried for is at the door. The light you held onto in the dark is finally shining on you. But here's the twist, instead of dancing in joy, something inside you feels uneasy. Not because you fear losing it, but because you fear what receiving it might reveal. Welcome to the fear of success. It sounds strange, doesn't it? After all the hardship, who would be afraid of the very thing they prayed for? But that's exactly what makes this moment so real, so human, and so spiritual. Because the deeper truth is this: People don't fear failure nearly as much as they fear being seen for who they truly are when success exposes them. Many of God's chosen ones have lived so long in a state of surviving that thriving feels foreign. You've built resilience through storms, but now you're being asked to build capacity for blessing. That's a whole new muscle. And it's scary, not because the blessing is wrong, but because success brings visibility, responsibility, and a level of spiritual warfare you've never faced before. It asks you to rise, not just endure. It calls you to step into authority, not just humility. And for those who have been trained in secret, being seen can feel like standing in the sun with scars still healing. Let's talk about that inner tension. It often shows up as self-sabotage. You delay the next step. You question whether you're really called. You downplay your ideas. You shrink when the spotlight comes. Not because you're weak, but because a voice whispers, "What if I can't handle this? What if I lose it? What if success changes me?" But here's the divine truth: success does not change you. It reveals you. It magnifies the foundation already built in the dark. And you, chosen one, have not built on sand. You've been forged in fire. You've been refined like gold. Your humility wasn't a performance, it was a practice. Your discipline wasn't for applause, it was for alignment. So why would the fruit of your faithfulness now become a threat? You see, the enemy cannot stop your blessing, but he will try to make you afraid of it. Because if you fear the light, you'll run back into the dark. If you doubt your readiness, you'll delay your purpose. And if you mistake spiritual expansion for personal danger, you'll disqualify yourself from a victory God already assigned to you. But let me remind you of something sacred: nothing is arriving too soon. This moment was tailor-made for your timeline. The provision is showing up not when you're perfect, but when you're prepared. Heaven does not operate on luck, it operates on alignment. And heaven knows you are ready. The doors are opening not because of chance, but because you endured. You passed the test. You walked through wilderness seasons that tried to crush your faith, yet you stood. You sowed when it hurt. You loved when it cost you. You praised when it made no sense. So don't insult the process by shrinking back when the harvest comes. This fear isn't really about money, visibility, or leadership. It's about worthiness. It's that quiet internal battle: am I allowed to live in peace? Am I allowed to be successful after everything I've been through? Do I deserve this? But grace doesn't operate on deserving. Grace chooses. Grace anoints. And grace qualifies. The truth is, you were not chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were faithful. And what God births through faith, He sustains by grace. Remember Joseph? Betrayed by his brothers, thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, and then exalted to second in command over Egypt. At any point, Joseph could have doubted his readiness. But when Pharaoh called, Joseph didn't shrink, he stood. He interpreted dreams. He prepared a nation. And he saved his family. Why? Because success didn't change Joseph, it confirmed the anointing he carried all along. Or think of Esther. A young girl raised in obscurity, brought to the palace not for comfort, but for calling. When the time came to risk everything and step forward, her fear was real. But her purpose was louder. She didn't run from the crown. She used it. And a nation lived. So here's the truth I need you to hear: you are not afraid of success. You're afraid of being seen in your full glory. You're afraid that the light will expose the parts of you still healing. But guess what? God is not waiting for perfection. He's looking for obedience. He's not asking you to be flawless, He's asking you to be faithful. And when that fear rises up, remember this: what you've survived has already proven your strength. The fire didn't destroy you, it prepared you. The storm didn't drown you, it trained you. The silence didn't break you, it deepened you. And now, Now it's time to step into the abundance you were born to carry. Because success is not your enemy. Success is your assignment. It's time to shift the narrative. Instead of fearing success, embrace the fact that your life is meant to carry influence. Instead of wondering if you'll lose it all, trust that God gave it to you to steward, not to stress over. Instead of hiding in fear of pride, walk boldly in humility, knowing that the same God who raised you up will sustain you in the spotlight. And when that final whisper comes, what if this changes you? Speak this truth aloud: it won't change me. It will reveal me. So now, chosen one, let me ask you, what if your fear is not failure, but finally becoming everything God always knew you could be? What if success isn't the danger, but the doorway? What if this isn't the end of your journey, but the true beginning of your impact? Don't let the fear of being great keep you from becoming it. The crown isn't too heavy. The light isn't too bright. The blessing isn't too big. You were made for this. And now, the only thing left to do, is walk in it. There comes a moment when every chosen one must confront a sobering truth: what you've been praying for, what you've cried over, fasted for, and held on to in faith. When it finally arrives, it doesn't just bring joy. It brings responsibility. You see, abundance was never meant to be the finish line. It was always meant to be the starting point of divine stewardship. This is not the end of the race, it's the torch being placed in your hands. And the question now isn't, will you enjoy it, but, will you carry it with purpose? You were not just blessed, you were entrusted. There's a holy difference. To be blessed is to receive. To be entrusted is to be assigned. And heaven does not assign lightly. Every dollar, every opportunity, every open door that now enters your life is not simply for your comfort. It's for your calling. It's the kingdom trusting you to lead, to build, to plant, and to multiply. And that's why this moment demands a deeper mindset. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells the parable of the talents, a story that isn't just about money, but about what we do with what we've been given. The master gives 5 talents to one servant, 2 to another, and 1 to a third, each according to their ability. The ones with 5 and 2 go out, multiply what they've received, and return with more. But the one who received a single talent buries it. He's afraid. He hides it. And when the master returns, that servant isn't praised for being careful, he's condemned for being wasteful. Let that settle in your spirit. Doing nothing with what heaven gives you is not caution, it's disobedience. Too many people receive blessings and sit on them. They think receiving is the end. They believe the purpose of the gift is simply to enjoy it, to show it off, or worse, to hoard it. But heaven doesn't pour into containers. It pours into conduits. You were never meant to hold the blessing like a vault, you were meant to release it like a river. The moment you turn your blessing into a monument, you stop it from becoming a movement. Wealth is not the goal, it's the tool. It's a vessel. It's a weapon in the hands of someone with vision. And in your hands, it becomes sacred. Why? Because you've been trained to carry it not with pride, but with purpose. You've walked through lack, so now you understand value. You've known what it's like to serve when no one was watching, so now you lead with humility. You've given when you had little, so when much comes, it won't corrupt you. It will commission you. But let's be honest, it's tempting to settle. To get just enough and stop. To taste comfort and cling to it. But chosen one, comfort is not your calling. Mission is. And your blessing is not for personal preservation, it's for collective transformation. You've been called to be a steward, not a collector. Think about this: if God placed $1 million in your hands today, what would you do with it? Would you build bigger barns? Or would you build a deeper impact? Would you ask, how can I protect this, or how can I plant this? That question isn't hypothetical, it's spiritual. Because how you handle your next blessing will reveal what kingdom you're truly building. God is not looking for people who will merely say, thank you. He's searching for people who will say, send me. People who don't just enjoy the overflow but channel it into schools, shelters, ministries, outreaches, legacies. People who turn favor into fuel. You are not a reservoir, you are a river. And rivers flow. Rivers cleanse. Rivers bring life. But the moment a river stops flowing, it becomes stagnant. It collects debris. It breeds decay. Likewise, when a chosen one receives but refuses to release, they block the very cycle that brought them the blessing to begin with. So ask yourself, am I storing what was meant to be sown? Am I preserving what heaven called me to pour? Because you were not called to be a trophy case. You were called to be a testimony. The blessing on your life is meant to be proof of what God can do through someone fully yielded. And yes, there is weight in responsibility. There is pressure in managing abundance. But don't let that scare you. Let it sober you. Let it shape your prayers, your plans, your purpose. Because the blessing that elevates you also examines you. It asks questions like, will you still pray before decisions? Will you still seek God when you have more than enough? Will you stay generous, or become guarded? Divine responsibility means that even in abundance, you walk with integrity. Even with options, you choose obedience. Even with influence, you remember the influence belongs to God. That's how the cycle continues. That's how the oil never runs dry. Not by holding on, but by pouring out. So today, heaven is not just celebrating what's in your hands, it's watching what you'll do with it. The anointing on your life was never for applause. It was for assignment. The favor wasn't random, it was routed. And the only way to honor it, is to activate it. Ask yourself now, who needs to be healed because I obeyed? Who will walk into their calling because I invested? What would the kingdom look like, if I treated my blessing as a battlefield strategy, not just a bank deposit? Chosen one, you are not just blessed. You are positioned. And with that positioning comes power. But with power comes purpose. And with purpose, comes responsibility. Don't bury the talent. Don't hold back the generosity. Don't delay the calling. What's in your hands is holy. What's on your life is sacred. And what's next is determined not by what you receive, but by what you release. So step forward, not just with open hands, but with open heart. Not just to receive, but to redistribute. Not just to enjoy, but to expand. Because when the chosen ones rise up and carry their wealth with wisdom, the kingdom of heaven touches earth in ways the world cannot ignore. Are you ready to multiply what heaven trusted you with? There comes a point in every spiritual journey when belief alone is no longer enough. Prayer has been spoken. Visions have been written. Tears have been shed. But still, something waits. Something remains on the other side of obedience. Because heaven does not reward wishful thinking, it partners with faithful action. This is where many of the chosen ones pause. Not because they lack faith in God, but because they've never been taught how faith walks. That it moves. That it builds. That it dares. That it doesn't just believe in promises, but co-labors to unlock them. Inspired action is not hustle. It's not doing just to do. It's not busywork disguised as obedience. Inspired action is holy. It is movement birthed from revelation. It is the moment you stop asking God to open a door and realize, your foot was made to push it. Faith without works is dead isn't just scripture, it's strategy. God won't do what He has empowered you to do. Heaven responds to motion. And some of you have been praying for rain, while refusing to dig the well. Let's break the myth, you cannot just wait your way into overflow. You cannot fast and cry and journal your way into millionaire inheritance while refusing to build, to launch, to initiate. Even Moses, great as he was, had to stretch out his staff before the Red Sea moved. And what if, right now, your next miracle is waiting on your next motion? How do you know when to move? It's simple, when the signal becomes persistent. The idea that won't leave you alone. The passion that burns even after the world has laughed. The divine timing that lines up 3 doors at once. The inner tug that says, now. These aren't coincidences, they're assignments. And ignoring them doesn't delay just your destiny, it can delay the destinies of those you were called to bless. When God gives you a vision, He doesn't give you the whole staircase, He gives you the next step. And He watches. Will you act with what little you know? Will you trust the nudge even when logic says wait? Inspired action requires surrender. It's not confidence in yourself, it's confidence in the one who sent the idea in the first place. And when you obey that signal, doors open. Not just for finances, but for clarity, relationships, opportunities, healing. Because God honors movement. Don't make the mistake of waiting for perfect conditions. Perfection is the enemy of progression. Peter didn't wait for the water to turn into pavement, he stepped. That's what real faith looks like, moving while trembling, deciding while doubting, showing up while scared. Heaven isn't waiting for you to feel ready, it's waiting for you to trust that the readiness is in your obedience. Inspired action doesn't need applause. It needs alignment. It's often quiet. Done in private. Misunderstood by others. But it changes everything. Like Abraham taking Isaac up the mountain, not knowing that provision was already walking up the other side. Like Esther walking into the throne room, not sure if she'd live, but knowing she was born for such a time as this. You don't need guarantees. You need obedience. Because when obedience meets anointing, breakthrough becomes inevitable. So what's stirring in your spirit right now? Is there a phone call you've been avoiding, a project you've been postponing, a leap you've been too afraid to take? Ask yourself, what if the wealth I've been praying for is tied to the action I keep delaying? That business idea. That book. That podcast. That move to a new city. That application. That yes. It's not random, it's the bridge. The bridge between where you are and where abundance lives. The blessing you're believing for already exists. It's just waiting to be activated. And action is the password. Not any action, but inspired, intentional, divinely aligned action. Because you can be busy and still be blocked. But when you're obedient, everything accelerates. Some of you have confused preparation with procrastination. You've been planning for years, but haven't moved. You say, I'm waiting on God. But could it be? He's been waiting on you. Waiting for you to believe in the vision He placed within you enough to walk it out. To trust it enough to act like it's real. To carry it like it already exists in your hands. Because the truth is, heaven doesn't invest in wishers, it invests in walkers. Let's shift the energy. From, I hope, to, I move. From, maybe one day, to, today is the day. From, I'm not ready, to, I trust who sent me. The world is changed not by the most talented, but by the most obedient. And right now, someone's destiny is waiting for your yes. So here is the truth wrapped in love, you will not stumble into abundance. You will not trip into overflow. You will walk into it, step by Spirit-led step. There will be risk. There will be uncertainty. But there will also be glory. And once you move, the universe will meet you at the pace of your faith. Doors will open that logic could never design. Resources will flow from unexpected places. And the version of you who said yes, that courageous, Spirit-filled version, will be the one who lives in the fulfillment of everything you've been praying for. Now take a moment. Ask yourself, gently but honestly, what's the action heaven is asking of me right now? What has God placed in my heart that I keep ignoring? And what if, just what if, that step I'm scared to take, is the one that changes everything? Because the truth is, you don't need more confirmation, you need more courage. You don't need more signs, you've already received them. What you need now, is motion. Movement. Inspired action. The kind that says, even if I can't see the outcome, I trust the origin. And in that trust, you step. Because when faith walks, miracles follow. There is a sacred moment in the life of every chosen one when the battle has been won, the breakthrough has arrived, and the blessing is no longer a distant prayer but a tangible reality. And in that holy moment, heaven doesn't ask you to hide your joy. Heaven invites you to celebrate it. Because celebration is not pride, it is praise. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. It's the act of saying, God, I see what you've done. I recognize it. I honor it. And I declare it. Too often, we are taught to shrink our joy, to silence our gratitude, to downplay our blessings so others won't feel uncomfortable. But nowhere in the Word does God ever call His people to suppress joy. On the contrary, the Scriptures overflow with images of celebration. The father who runs to his prodigal son, shouting for a feast. David, dancing without shame before the Ark of the Covenant, even as others judged him. The psalmist urging us, enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. These are not suggestions, they are blueprints for overflow. Because here's the truth, celebration is a spiritual discipline. It is an act of warfare against the spirit of lack. When you celebrate, you send a message to both heaven and hell, I will not be silent about what God has done. You become a witness. You become a signal flare in the spirit that says, breakthrough happened here. And when you acknowledge even the smallest victory, you create space for more. Why? Because heaven trusts those who honor what they've received. And gratitude in motion, celebration, is the clearest signal that you are ready for overflow. Let's dismantle a lie, celebration is not the same as boasting. Boasting centers on the self. Celebration centers on the source. It is your way of pointing back to the giver and saying, this didn't come from me. It came through me. But it belongs to God. In fact, celebration is a form of testimony. And testimonies create atmospheres where miracles multiply. So the more you celebrate, the more you amplify the frequency of abundance, not just for yourself, but for those around you. Some of you have received major blessings but have been afraid to rejoice. Maybe it's fear of jealousy. Maybe it's the trauma of always losing things before. Maybe it's the voice in your head that says, don't get too excited. It might not last. But what if that exact fear is what's blocking the next wave? What if joy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity? What if celebration is how heaven knows you're still open for more? It's time to shift your posture. You've cried enough. You've waited long enough. You've endured more than most would ever understand. And now that the favor has started to flow, it's time to lift your hands, open your mouth, and rejoice without hesitation. Rejoice without explanation. Rejoice without apology. Because every tear you sowed in private has produced this harvest. And heaven is watching, waiting, to see if you'll steward this moment with thanksgiving. Gratitude and celebration create the highest spiritual vibration. This is not just emotional, it's energetic. It's spiritual. When you choose to celebrate, even in small things, you align your spirit with the rhythm of heaven. And when you do this consistently, you begin to live in what the ancients called a perpetual state of receiving. Not because you're demanding more, but because you've proven that you recognize and revere what you've already been given. So let me ask you something, when was the last time you celebrated, not just endured? When was the last time you acknowledged your progress, not in shame, but in joy? Have you ever thrown a personal praise party because you made it through something only you and God know about? Have you looked in the mirror and declared, I'm proud of the way I kept the faith? Because if you haven't, let this be your permission slip. Your divine nudge. Heaven is cheering, will you join in? This isn't just about you. Your celebration becomes a ripple effect. It gives others permission to rejoice. To dream again. To believe that blessings are possible. You shift the atmosphere when you praise. And remember, joy is contagious. Joy is spiritual fuel. Joy keeps your heart soft and your faith strong. David didn't wait until he was crowned king to celebrate. He praised God as a shepherd boy, as a fugitive, as a worshiper. Jesus didn't wait until the cross was empty to give thanks. He lifted the bread and broke it in gratitude before the miracle multiplied. These were people who understood, celebration is the language of expectation. It is saying, I'm not just grateful for what happened. I'm preparing for what's next. So celebrate today, not when the account hits a certain number, not when the house is paid off, not when everything is perfect. Celebrate because you are breathing. Because you are healing. Because you are in motion. Because something in your life, whether big or small, has shifted. Celebrate because your testimony has begun. Celebrate because heaven has said yes. And if the enemy tries to whisper, you're doing too much, remind him, I suffered in silence. I cried in secret. I battled in private. So I will not apologize for rejoicing in public. This is your victory lap. This is your moment to say, I made it. And more importantly, God did it. Declare it today, I will celebrate my blessings out loud. I will honor what God has done. And I will welcome even more, with joy as my doorway. Now take a breath. Smile. Laugh. Sing. Dance. Testify. Because the kingdom isn't just built on prayer and pain. It's also built on joy. You've stepped into your harvest. Now, celebrate like you believe it. This is not just the end of a message. It is the beginning of a movement. A shift. A spiritual declaration. This is the moment when everything you've heard, everything you've believed, and everything you've been preparing for comes to a single question. Are you ready to claim it? Not hope for it. Not wish for it. Claim it. With boldness. With faith. With a voice that shakes both heaven and earth. You didn't come this far to stop at the threshold. You didn't endure the wilderness to die on the edge of your promised land. Now is the time to speak it out loud. This is your divine hour to align your faith with your words and your words with your action. Because when you declare something aloud, you are no longer waiting for permission. You are stepping into spiritual authority. So say it, I claim my divine abundance. Let the atmosphere around you shift as you do. Let your spirit rise in confidence, not because of your own strength, but because of the promise that God has placed in you. The power of this final step isn't in waiting quietly, it's in speaking boldly. That is what activates overflow. That is what calls down heaven. That is what seals the covenant. This is why we ask, not just for likes or subscriptions, but for a comment that carries your faith. This is more than YouTube engagement. This is a sacred act. Every declaration typed below this video becomes a stone of remembrance, a public altar to say, God, I believe you. I trust you. And I receive what you've already prepared for me. So write it like you mean it. Choose your words like they are shaping your future, because they are. Whether you say, I receive my millions, or I no longer survive, I thrive, or abundance flows through me now, the point is not the phrasing. The point is the power behind it. This is your agreement with heaven. This is your line in the sand. This is where you stop rehearsing the past and start rehearsing the promise. And as you make that declaration, let the old mindset fall away. The one that kept you small. The one that told you to wait your turn. The one that whispered, not yet, maybe later, you're not ready. Because now, you know better. Now, you understand that you were chosen, not because of what you've done, but because of what you carry. And what you carry is too heavy to sit idle. It was made to be released. It was made to flow. It was made to multiply. So claim it. Not with fear. Not with hesitation. But with the full authority of someone who has walked through fire and come out refined like gold. Speak not as a beggar, but as an heir. You don't ask for permission to thrive, you were appointed to do so. This is not just your moment to believe. It is your moment to become. Because the truth is, you are not surviving anymore. You are thriving. Let those words settle deep into your soul. Let them rewrite the narrative that was handed to you by struggle, by scarcity, by fear. Thriving means you no longer wake up afraid of what will go wrong. You wake up expecting what God will make right. Thriving means your energy matches the size of your calling. Thriving means you move with gratitude, you speak with power, and you live like someone who knows heaven is backing every step. You've crossed the last threshold. This is no longer the season of surviving. This is the era of overflow. Speak it. Claim it. Walk in it. Now go ahead, type your declaration. Claim it publicly. Mark this moment. And live from it. Because your harvest has already begun.